Welcome back to another Wacky Wednesday. My name's Mike and this is Pongo. And our question for today is, why did God make heaven and did God make hell? That's our question today. Why did God make heaven and hell? It's a good question, eh, Pongo? It's a good question. Why did God make heaven and why did God make hell? Now, last week we asked the question, did God make heaven and hell? And the answer was yes. It was yes. Jesus made everything, so Jesus made heaven and he made hell. But today the question is, why? Why? Why did he do it? And here's the answer. You guys ready? We get the answer from the Bible book of Romans, chapter 9. There we go, chapter 9, verse 20, 21, 22, and 23. And the answer we get is that it shows off things about God. It shows off God. Hell shows off something about God, and heaven shows off something else about God. Now, what does hell show off about God? It shows off how just he is. How just or how fair God is. It shows that he gives people no more, no less, but exactly what they deserve. Hey, Pongo, not too much, not too little, but exactly what they deserve. And that's right. It's like when the bully gets detention. It's right, it's just, it's fair, and it's a good thing. It shows that the principal did a good job. And that's what hell does for God. It shows off how fair God is. And that's good. Now, what does heaven do? Why did God make heaven? What does heaven show off about God? Well, it does this. It shows off how kind God is. It shows off that he's kind and loving, and he gives a kind gift to people who don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. That's what heaven does. It shows off how kind God is. Hell shows off how just and fair God is, that he gives people what they deserve, and that's a good thing. And heaven shows off how kind God is, how he gives people things that they don't deserve. And we get all this from Romans chapter 9. So let me read it to you. It says here, Romans chapter 9, and it says this. It says, doesn't God have the right to do with people what he wants? To use some for honorable use and others for common use. And then verse 22. What if God, although ready and willing to punish everybody, why doesn't God just end everything now and punish everybody now and send sinners to hell and forgiven people to heaven? Why doesn't he do that? Because that would show off how fair he is. If right now Jesus came back and then everybody who deserved hell went to hell, like me, I deserve hell, and those who've been forgiven by Jesus, like me, I've asked him to forgive me, and so I went to heaven. Why doesn't God just do that now? Because that would show off how just and fair God is. Why doesn't he do that now? Because he's patient. And he wants to show off how kind he is by saving as many people as he can for heaven, to show off how kind he is. That's why. That's what Romans chapter 9, verse 20 through to 23 says. That hell shows off how fair God is, and heaven shows off how kind God is by saving and forgiving sinners like me through Jesus. Through Jesus. Jesus is how sinful people like me who should go to hell can be forgiven and go to heaven. And so, that's the answer as to why did God make hell and why did God make heaven. He made hell to show off how fair and just he is by punishing people, by giving them no more, no less, but exactly what they deserve. And he made heaven to show off how kind he is by giving them not what they deserve, but a whole bunch of stuff they didn't deserve. Forgiveness, an eternity with God, a wonderful new world, a perfect friendship with Jesus. All that is a gift. And heaven shows off how kind God is. So, what do we, me, Pongo, and all of you at home, what do we need to do? Because we don't want to go to hell. We don't want to be a picture of how just God is. We want to be a picture of how kind God is. So what must we do? Well, if we flip over to Romans chapter 10, it tells us what God wants us to do. It says there, chapter 10, verse 9 says this: if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is King, and you believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, you will be saved. That's what God wants us to do. He doesn't want us to be a picture of how just and fair He is. He wants us to be a picture of how kind He is. And so what you need to do is, if you haven't done this before, is you need to say with your mouth, Jesus is King, Jesus is Lord, and you need to believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead. Hey Ponga, you need to say with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you need to believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead. That's what you need to do. So that's the answer of why did God make hell and why did God make heaven. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Mike, and Pongo for another Wacky Wednesday, and I hope you enjoyed the second part in our series on hell and heaven, and we've got a whole bunch more things coming. So remember, at home, send through your questions. Parents, if your child asks this question, you owe them a big chocolate. So kids, if you want a big chocolate, send your questions through, and if they get here on Wacky Wednesday, tell your parents, I want my chocolate. So remember to do that, and if you want to see our videos whenever they come out, remember to hit like. Well, don't worry about like, just hit subscribe, and then you'll get a little notification when the video comes. If you click over here, you'll find a playlist for all our other Wacky Wednesday videos, and if you click over here, you'll find a playlist for all our Sunday snack videos. So if you want some more things to watch, you can watch those here. Well, that's all from me, Mike, and Pongo, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now. Say bye.